Hey guys, welcome to Seeds of Awareness. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the stimulant delusion. And just as a disclaimer before I go on, I have nothing against coffee. I have nothing really against stimulants, but I really feel like this is something people need to understand because it's something that by not understanding it, we're continually sabotaging ourselves and not having balance when we use stimulants. And it is a concept that is actually extremely simple, but it's not widely understood at all. And that's demonstrated by the way we abuse stimulants without thinking there's any consequences. So this is something that I really would like for you to consider before you reach for your next cup of coffee or your next energy drink or your next drink of alcohol or the next puff of a cigarette. Basically, any stimulant really needs to keep this stimulant delusion in mind. And it can also be a bit of a trigger topic because when we're addicted to something or when we've got a deep habit of using something regularly, especially something like coffee, which for a lot of people is a regular everyday thing that they use, and it's often multiple times a day, we can often put the blinkers on because we humans do not like changing our habits. We don't like hearing things also that challenge our habits. So we sort of justify our habits, we put the blinkers on to any sort of information that might conflict with it, and we can get easily triggered. So I ask you to be open-minded. I'm not telling you to stop using coffee or to stop taking stimulants, but this is something that could bring so much more balance into your usage and actually probably save you a lot of suffering. So the stimulant delusion is based on the fact that most people think that stimulants actually give them energy. And this is actually the exact opposite to the truth, even though on appearances they do indeed seem to give us energy. But what is actually happening is the energy that we're experiencing when we use a stimulant is just an illusion. It's actually energy being depleted out of our body that was already there. So a good example that I like to use is think about if you were riding a horse and that you really needed to get somewhere with that horse, and that horse was fatiguing deeply. But every time you gave that horse a whack of the whip, it sort of gave it another burst of energy. But what you're actually doing with that hit of the whip is you're just stimulating energy that was already in the horse. The whip doesn't actually give the horse energy, it stimulates up what was already there. And so what happens is once that short stimulation of the whip wears off, the horse is actually in a deeper fatigue than it was before because you've forced it to dig into its reserve bank. And that's the thing, nature is all about conservation of energy. When you look at anyone who's studied trees or anything like that, or plants, their whole existence is based around conservation of energy. It's why they drop leaves in the autumn and go to sleep in the winter, because nature has calculated that it would take more energy, it would take too much energy to stay alive in the cold of winter. It would take more energy than what they're actually receiving through photosynthesis of the sun. So they just go into a hibernation, into a deep sleep. Animals do this as well. A bear or those animals that live close to the Arctic pole, they go to sleep during the freezing winter months because, once again, nature has decided that it would be too energy inefficient for them to try to continue creating heat and finding food than it would, and so it's not worth it, so they just go to sleep the whole time. And humans are also governed by these same laws, and I think that if we weren't so stimulated by our need to be so active in this society we've created, that we too would actually have a desire to sort of go into a sort of slower state in winter or a bit of a hibernation. And I know for me, when it comes to winter, I do feel like slowing down, conserving my energy, but we don't live in a world that nurtures that. We don't live in a world that gives a crap about the laws of nature, or gives a crap that we are actually an animal. We call ourselves human, but we are just like we're an animal, like every other animal, and so we're governed by the laws of nature. And energy conservation for humans is just as important as it is for all of animals, because without energy, the body can't function. Energy is directed to all the organs, to brain function. It allows your body to stay warm and detoxify and break down foods and heal itself. And energy is absolutely everything. Without energy, there is no life. And so energy conservation is crucial, but we live in a world, our Western culture, that constantly demands our energy. It constantly demands, in my opinion, way more than what we sort of like naturally can give. And because we don't have that natural energy to be constantly giving to our work, our family, and everything, we gravitate towards stimulants because we feel like we need some outside help. We just don't feel like we can do it. But the problem is the stimulants, as I said at the beginning, the energy that stimulants give us is not a real energy. They're not giving you energy at all. They're actually just like whipping the horse. Every time you have a stimulant, you're whipping your body into a frenzied state of action, and you're putting it into a heightened state. But the problem is the crash when the stimulant wears off, it leaves your body in a state more deeply fatigued than it was actually before. So you've dug into your body's reserve energy. Nature gives us reserve energies for those times when we really need it. Those times when there's not much food. There's times when we go through a really cold winter, or there's times where we're on the move, where, as tribes, we're trying to find a new place with new food. That's when energy reserves are crucial. But in our modern Western culture, we are constantly whipping ourselves with stimulants and digging out of these reserve energy banks, and it leaves people in a deep state of fatigue and exhaustion. But not many people actually link it back to the stimulants. Most people are so habitual with their use and actually so addicted and in such deep denial that they don't link their deep exhaustion back to the constant stimulants they're taking. And the problem is, when we're constantly whipping our body into action, we're not leaving any energy behind for nature to do its thing, for nature to heal our body, for our cells to regenerate, for our body to detoxify, for our body to be able to maintain a steady temperature, all these sort of things, for our immune system to be able to fight off bacteria. And then when the body doesn't have energy for that, toxins rise in the body, which are feeding, which is the food for bacteria. So we allow more bacteria that we don't want in our body, because toxins are rising because our organs don't have enough energy available to them. We can't think clearly because our brain doesn't have enough energy. And this leaves us in this deep state of fatigue. And the real issue is that we don't understand what the impact stimulants are having on us. So what happens is it's a negative cycle. We have a stimulant, and then the stimulant wears off, and it leaves us in a deeper state of fatigue. So then we think we need more energy, so we have another stimulant, and then that stimulant wears off and leaves us in an even deeper state of fatigue. And most people, because they don't understand that the stimulant is actually taking energy from them, and they become addicted, they just keep in this cycle. They just keep going in this cycle. And then as we get all these symptoms, it could be all sorts of symptoms around the body, and we take pharmaceutics, which in reality, all we need is rest. All we need is just to chill out on the stimulants and actually rest. Rest is the only thing that can recharge energy in the body. There is nothing else. And there's 3 types of rest. There's the deep rest we get when sleeping. There's just like resting as in relaxing. And then there's physiological rest, which is fasting. And that's why I highly recommend intermittent fasting, which I've done another video on, because it gives your body an intermittent break, which is physiological rest, which gives your internal organs a rest. So we're very big on giving our body a rest, but our internal organs, because we eat all day and night, or morning, lunch and dinner, our internal organs never get a rest. And most of the time that what we eat is processed junk food, which is a heavy tax on our energy of our organs. So the 3 types of rest are crucial. Deep rest in sleep, normal just relaxation, and then physiological rest, giving our internal organs a rest, a time to catch up, rejuvenate their energy stores, and actually detoxify. And then also we need to redefine what we think of as stimulants. I mean, most of us only think of coffee as a stimulant or an energy as a stimulant, and they certainly are stimulants, but also cigarettes are a stimulant, and alcohol is a stimulant. Food can be a stimulant. Exercise is a stimulant. Anything that being excited is a stimulant. Going to a concert and listening to adrenaline pumping music, that's a stimulant. Anything that puts our body into a heightened state is a stimulant. Getting a fright is a stimulant. Getting in a cold shower is a stimulant. All of these are stimulants, and I'm not saying any of them are good or bad, but what we need to understand with the stimulant delusion is that none of them are giving us energy, only rest. Only the 3 types of rest can actually give you energy. Everything else just takes it away. Life is all about the balance of rejuvenating energy and using energy. But at the moment, the human race is so far out of balance. We're using so much more than what we're actually rejuvenating. And we definitely don't rest enough. Or when we do rest enough, we've still got like heavy food in us and our internal organs still aren't resting. So the other issue is that when we use stimulants, it puts us in this fight-flight state where our cortisol levels are high, our adrenaline levels are high, and it puts us in a fight-flight state where what we would normally get in nature if something frightened us or scared us or attacked us, and the fight-flight state will put us in a really like heightened vigilant state, and we'd be able to like prepare ourselves and be on high alert, and we'd be able to get ourselves out of that situation. But the difference is in nature, all animals, when they're in that heightened state, they then are out of it within the next 10 minutes. Like you watch a tiger chase a deer or something, and the deer, if it gets away, literally like 2 minutes later, it'll just be chewing on some grass as if nothing happened. Its body instantly, its sympathetic nervous system's triggered with the fight-flight state, but then the parasympathetic nervous system calms everything down very quickly. Whereas humans, we're constantly in this fight-flight state because we're constantly stressed. And I think it's because we're constantly living up in our heads rather than in the body, which is I've talked about in another video as well. And I'll put all these related videos in the info comments. So what happens is we're already in this fight-flight state, and then we take a stimulant and it triggers us even deeper into this fight-flight state. And so it's just this constant, permanent fight-flight state of constant adrenaline, constant cortisol, and that can crash our immune system, that can destroy our health. And most people, because we don't practice embodiment, we don't practice relaxation, don't know how to calm their body back down, don't know how to bring the parasympathetic nervous system back online. And so if we can understand all these things, we can then use stimulants in a more balanced way. And as I said, I'm not demonizing stimulants. Coffee can be a great tool. An energy drink can be a great tool to help you get some work done or whatever. But if you think that it's giving you energy, then you're going to keep going back to that stimulant and keep digging into your energy reserves tank and keep exhausting yourself to complete depletion. The most balanced person I know is a friend, I won't mention his name, lives over in America, but he is someone who is he's a body worker, he practices embodiment, he knows he's not living permanently in this fight-flight state. So when he drinks a coffee, it does give him a stimulation, but it's not depleting his body as much as it would another person. And when the coffee wears off, he knows how to get back into a relaxed state. And he has it with balance, and he only has it when it feels right to him. It's not like a chronic addiction. Also, he has really great respect for how he uses a stimulant. Most people just use coffee and don't think about where the coffee's come from or how it's processed. This guy grinds his own coffee beans so that there aren't toxins produced, so that there's no oxidation, because when you grind a coffee bean, it oxidizes, which produces toxins. He sources them from very specific places. He sources them from high altitude places in Central America because it's where they don't grow mold. Most coffee beans are grown in tropical environments and they grow mold on them, which a lot of people think is very toxic to the body. He also has filter coffee. He puts his coffee through a filter, which means that a lot of the toxins are filtered out of it. And he also is very centered and very balanced and very grateful for the coffee, and adds a bit of coconut oil or butter, which he believes slows the absorption of the coffee into his system. So you can see, and there's much more balance and mindfulness, and he treats it a lot more of a sacred practice rather than this grabbing an instant coffee or not thinking about it and just using it just to get a bit of a jack up. So, and the other thing with stimulants is that once we have a stimulant, it instantly triggers our craving for another stimulant. And it can easily begin that a coffee, starting off with coffee can then, every now and then lead to an everyday thing, which then leads to coffee and then a wine at night, and then leads to even the craving for more stimulants, even stuff like cocaine or heavy foods or processed sugar, things like this. As soon as we start taking stimulants without mindfulness, we then get cravings for more and more stimulation, and we just keep whipping ourselves like whipping an exhausted horse until we just collapse. So it all comes back to this yin-yang balance, the Taoist symbol, which is the balance of female and male energies, yin and yang. Yang is our doing, and coffee and stimulants are a very yang energy. They're about doing and moving and forceful forward motion. But the problem is, as a society, we don't nurture that or balance that with any yin activities. So if you're someone who loves your stimulants and loves your coffee, I would just keep in mind that every time you have the stimulant, you're pursuing a very yang activity. You're taking energy out of your body, and that energy needs to be restored. It has to be restored, otherwise you're going to go out of balance. You're not going to have any energy reserves, and that's something that nature has strives towards, energy efficiency. So if you are doing a lot of yang activities and having a lot of yang substances such as stimulants, probably I would advise to balance it out with yin, such as meditation, such as relaxation, such as having a bath, such as turning your mobile phone off for a while, going out to nature and just clearing your head and allowing everything to come, allowing the parasympathetic nervous system to bring everything back down into balance, to calm it down, going to bed earlier, having like detoxing of technology every now and then, just getting off it for a couple of days. Or going to yin yoga. Yin yoga is an amazing practice. Listening to relaxing music. Many yin activities that we can do. So I really hope this has cleared it up for you. As I said, I can't stress more that I'm not demonizing stimulants. They can be a really helpful tool, except the only thing is the only people I see them being helpful for are the people who are mindful when they're using them, who aren't deluded that the stimulant is actually giving them energy, where it's really not. It's digging into your energy reserves and taking precious energy that your body needs to perform all its normal functions. So keeping all this in mind, this can help you bring a lot more balance to your stimulant use, and I hope this has helped. There's a few other things I wanted to cover, but I can see I've gone for 18 minutes already. The one thing I do want to cover is discussing how actually energy works, like using a phone as an example for energy recuperation. So like all the applications, as I said before, only rest can actually bring energy into the body, just like a phone. So all of our applications on our phone use energy, and those applications, whether it be using phone or texting or Facebook or whatever, the more applications you use, the more energy you deplete out of your phone. It's the same with the body. All of your body has applications. Digestion's an application, brain activities an application, temperature regulation's an application, movement, talking, doing this video is all applications that are demanding a lot of the body's energy. So we know with a phone that the only way to recoup it is to plug it in at night or whatever and recharge it. Especially these need to be recharged heaps. But with the body, it's the same thing. We can only be recharged. No energy cannot come any other way. You can't whip it out of the body. It's not with a stimulant. It's not giving it energy. And the way we recharge is we connect into the energy around us wirelessly and harness it in our body by just relaxing, just stopping moving and stopping stimulation and resting, deeply resting. So hopefully that analogy helps you understand a bit more about how energy actually works in the body. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to our videos. If you have any questions around this, please ask, or if you've got any suggestions for other things you want me to talk about. But I hope this helps, and I'll see you on the next video.